The new Warriors book, The Elder's Quest, came out last Tuesday, and I am ready to talk about it. So I'm gonna go over like the plot, everything that happens in each chapter, and then I'm gonna talk about some of my thoughts and something else that I'm sure will be a hot topic in the Warriors fandom for a while. Before I start, I wanted to mention something. So, usually, new releases for the Warriors books are like this. You'll notice that the cover is not shiny, it's matte. But for Wind and Star, they change how the covers are. Like, they're shiny and glossy, and it's just these two books. And for the Elder's Quest, they went back to the matte covers, so like a lot of people's collections of the Warriors books are just going to be having two shiny book covers for some reason. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into the book. So, spoilers ahead. Obviously, I would not recommend watching or listening to this video if you have not read the book yet and you plan to, because I'm going to be getting into pretty much everything. So, yeah, that is your final warning. We're going to begin. So the prologue starts with a few Star Clan cats sitting around a pool of water discussing the dangers coming to the clans, and they decide to send a prophecy to a cat that will know what to do. We get a Firestar cameo, and he's like, I know, just the cat. And then we start with chapter 1 with our new POV, Tawny Pelt. So Tawny Pelt is taking out a patrol to catch frogs, and she gets annoyed with Bloom Petal and Spireclaw because they want to hunt birds instead of frogs and not get their paws muddy in the marsh. Tawny Pelt gets upset with them, being like, oh my god, these younger generations don't know how to treat their elders. But anyways, they go and catch frogs, whatever, and Tawny Pelt comes up with a plan to catch some. And after waiting for a while, she gets mad because Bloom Petal and Spireclaw are not doing what she told them to, and she goes to find them. And they decided to catch frogs a different way, but they still caught a lot of them, so she doesn't get too upset with them. And then they go back to camp, and Tawny Pelt visits her grandkits in the Elder's Den. And Oakfur is telling stories to Quick Kit, Beach Kit, and Pool Kit, Lightleap, and Blazefire's new kits. And Rowanclaw is brought up, and Tawny Pelt thinks about how she misses him. In Sky Clan, our next new POV is Leafstar. Leafstar is dreaming about the gorge, and in this dream, she's laying next to Billy Storm watching their kits. And Hawkwing wakes Leafstar, and she mistakes him for Sharpclaw, his father, but he doesn't seem to take any notice, or if he does, he doesn't say anything about it. We learn that Leafstar's been having issues with her vision, but she's keeping it a secret from her clan because she wants them to think that she's still fully capable. And we learn that Two Legs have been loud near the border recently. Leafstar calls a meeting and apprentices Starling Paw to Nectar Song and Robin Paw to Gravel Nose. And then later on, Leafstar is woken from a nap by Frecklewish. They both go to the medicine den where Bella Leaf is curled on the ground after being sick. She says that she had a stomach ache, and even after throwing up, she's been having seizures. And the medicine cats don't know what it is, and Sage Nose comes into the den complaining about a bad stomach. Both he and Bellaleaf have pink swelling around their eyes, and he's sent out of camp to vomit, and Leafstar and Frecklewish conclude it must be the fresh kill. So they find out it is the prey, and they divide the prey that looks healthy from the prey that looks sick. And a patrol comes to camp, and Cloudmiss is having the same sickness, but she says she hasn't eaten all day, only having a drink from the stream. Leafstar and Hawkwing suspect whatever the Two Legs are doing has poisoned the stream. So Tree and Root Spring go to Shadow Clan to warn them, and Rabbit Leap and Tiny Cloud go to Thunder Clan. Hawkwing and a few others start carrying away the poison prey, and Leafstar is about to go back to her den when she hears Gravelnose call her name. His patrol has scented recent badger scent on the territory, and Leafstar's unsure what to do, but she says they need to investigate before they do anything, and Gravelnose is not too happy about that. But she goes to her den and dreams about the gorge again, and she thinks about how she misses Echo Song and plans to go to the moonpool. So then chapter 3 is our new protagonist, POV, Moonpaw. So It begins with Golden Paw and Shine Paw being apprenticed to Finleap and Flipclaw. Moonkit is disappointed that she isn't being apprenticed with them as they are very close in age, but her parents, Thriftier and Bayshine, cousins, by the way, say they think she may be destined to be a medicine cat because of her unique fur. But Moonkit doesn't want to be a medicine cat, she wants to be a warrior, and we learn that Moonkit has been hearing a voice inside her head. The voice has told her not to tell anyone about it, or they'll make her a medicine cat, and for this reason, Moonkit hasn't told anyone that she hears this voice. Moonkit and her parents go visit Alderheart and Jayfeather, and Squirrelstar comes into the den to listen. Jayfeather decides that Moonkit is not a medicine cat, and Squirrelstar says her apprentice ceremony will be the next day. Moonpaw is apprenticed to Sunbeam, and she thinks that being chosen as her mentor must be special to her, since she was a Shadow Clan cat before, and Moonpaw decides she's going to be the best apprentice ever. So Sunbeam is teaching Moonpaw the hunting crouch, but Moonpaw can't focus because the voice in her head keeps talking to her and distracting her. Sunbeam gets frustrated that Moonpaw isn't listening, but is understanding, and she tells Moonpaw to go down to the lake and see what she can catch. Moonpaw is stalking a squirrel when she turns her head to look at the lake and sees her reflection, but another cat's reflection is there too, an orange tabby that looks just like her. Moonpaw gasps, and the squirrel runs away, and Moonpaw looks behind her, but no one is there, yet the reflection remains. The reflection speaks, and it's the same voice as the voice in her head. Back in Shadow Clan, Tawnypelt wakes up from a nap and thinks about the noise of the two-leg monsters, but decides that it's Sky Clan's problem. She sees Tigerstar and Cloverfoot discussing something and pads over to join them. Tigerstar is remarking about Sky Clan hunting too close to the border, and Cloverfoot says she's found Sky Clan about to cross the border chasing a rabbit. Tigerstar says they'll make any excuse to cross borders and says he's found Sky Clan sent over the border, but Cloverfoot says she believes Tree about the two legs poisoning the stream. Tigerstar states it's Sky Clan's problem, but Tawnypelt says he should send a patrol to investigate, bringing up the old territories and how it was destroyed, and he should be worried about it. Tigerstar is annoyed and says he'll run the clan how he sees fit, getting very annoyed with Tawnypelt. He tells Tawnypelt to lead a patrol, and she asks Cloverfoot to have Birchfeather on it. So Tawnypelt and Birchfeather are patrolling together when Tawnypelt finds Sky Clan scent on the border. She thinks it's a spy and notices that Birchfeather is visibly uncomfortable. And he says it's not a spy and that he's been meeting secretly with Ridgeglow from Sky Clan. Tawnypelt asks why they're meeting in secret when cross-clan relationships are allowed now, and he says he was afraid of how Tigerstar would react. But Tawnypelt reassures him, saying if anyone would understand, it's Tigerstar or Dovewing, and convinces him to tell his parents about his relationship. He asks Tawnypelt to go with him when he talks to them, and he tells Tigerstar and Dovewing that he's going to move to Sky Clan to be with her. They're both appalled and a bit angry, and Dovewing can't believe that Tawnypelt would encourage this. Back in Sky Clan, Leafstar is once again dreaming about the gorge, and she wakes up to the noise of two-leg monsters and remarks that no cat came to her when she went to the moonpool. She tells this to Hawkwing and mentions that there were traces of two legs all around the moonpool, and she wonders if they should have gone back to the gorge after Darktail died, but Hawkwing can't believe she thinks that. And Hawkwing asks if she's on her last life, and she says she's not. Leafstar takes Sky Clan to the gathering. Squirrelstar announces her new apprentices, as does Leafstar. Leafstar asks Tigerstar and Squirrelstar if Sky Clan can catch the prey that crosses into their borders because of the two legs poisoning their prey. Both leaders say no, stating that they need all the prey they can get since it's so close to Leaf Bear, but Icestar says she'll send some warriors to teach Sky Clan how to fish from the lake, and Leafstar is very grateful. Tawnypelt says they should be worried about what the two legs are doing, saying it could spread from Sky Clan to the other clans. And Tigerstar gets agitated with her again, and Leafstar wonders what Tawnypelt could have done to make Tigerstar so angry. But Leafstar brings up all the two-leg markings by the moonpool, and this catches everyone's attention. Hairstar asks if the two legs have done anything to the moonpool itself, and Leafstar says no. Because of that, Tigerstar thinks she's just trying to get everyone worried for no reason to take their prey, but Leafstar calls him out on his bullshit. Hawkwing says that Leafstar should be taken seriously, and Crowfeather agrees. And he brings up what happened to the forest territories, and Tigerstar makes up a plan to send one cat from each clan to investigate what the Two Legs are doing. Back in ThunderClan, Moonpaw wakes up after the gathering, feeling tired. Goldenpaw and Shinepaw are talking about how exciting it was to be at the gathering, talking to other cats. But Moonpaw can't agree because the voice in her head kept her distracted all night long and she couldn't pay attention to what anyone was saying. The other two apprentices think she was just being shy, but Moonpaw doesn't say anything. Grey Whisker, Stemtail, and Bristleclaw, ThunderClan's new warriors, ask her how her first gathering was and seem confused when Moonpaw doesn't show much excitement. She goes to the dirt place and wonders if there's something wrong with her. She decides she'll consult with a medicine cat, and she finds Alderheart in the den, but he's very busy and can't listen to Moonpaw. She tries asking questions about medicine cats to pique his interest, but he is still very busy, not listening to her. And she asks if StarClan cats ever present themselves as a voice in someone's head. This immediately gets Alderheart's attention and asks her where she got that idea. She says she was just curious, but Alderheart says the last time something like that happened, very bad things occurred. Moonpaw asks about this, but Alderheart is dismissive and tells her to forget about it. She leaves the den and finds Sunbeam. Sunbeam says she heard Moonpaw asking questions and wonders if Moonpaw was destined to be a medicine cat after all. Moonpaw begins to wonder this too. Jayfeather comes into camp and Sunbeam calls her over. She says she thinks Moonpaw might be a medicine cat, but Jayfeather is not convinced. Moonpaw says she might be having visions, and Alderheart asks her of what. She makes up a story of a fake vision. Jayfeather still is not convinced, but Alderheart seems swayed. So in the next chapter, we have the patrol of cats from every clans going to check out what the Two Legs are doing. And this patrol consists of Tawnypelt, Leafstar, Crowfeather, Owlnose, and Bayshine. They come up to find a blue wall and get to higher ground to see what's in it. Inside, a huge two-leg den is being built with huge monsters all around. They see two legs enter the big monsters and the air gets very loud with its noise, so the patrol decides to head back. They worry about if the clans will band together if the situation gets worse, and they have to move territories again. Leafstar tries to reassure them, saying that she's sure the clans will work together if it comes to that, but Crowfeather snaps, stating she wasn't there and doesn't know what it was like the last time. Leafstar decides they should patrol here every quarter moon to keep an eye on things. In SkyClan, Leafstar comments about not much prey being brought back, yet cats aren't starving yet. Leafstar calls a meeting and declares that a patrol will finally drive out the badger that has settled on their territory. None of SkyClan's warriors seem excited about this. They're wary about fighting a badger. Almost everyone keeps looking to Hawkwing as if they expect him to speak against Leafstar's plan. Leafstar even asks her clans what's wrong with them. She didn't expect them to be so against this. Gravelnose says he's been to the spot with badgers sent and states there's probably more than one badger and it's too dangerous to go there. But Leafstar decides to drive out the badger anyway, thinking that it's just one. Leafstar lets Gravelnose lead the patrol to the badger den, and Leafstar makes a note of her failing eyesight again. Once there, she goes over the plan and everyone takes up their positions. Rootspring says he thinks there's more than one badger, but Leafstar is adamant there's only one. When the badger comes out of its den, Kite Scratch claws at it, but the badger takes his leg and starts pulling him into the den. Reed Claw tries to help, and together she and Rootspring help Kite Scratch get away. The patrol doesn't seem confident to fight the badger, and Leafstar considers retreating. But then a second badger appears, and Leafstar thinks a third one has joined the fight and goes to attack it. But Kite Scratch stops her because the third badger was actually Starling Paw. In their distraction, the biggest badger grabs Kite Scratch by the neck and Leafstar calls a retreat. The patrol runs away, but it's too late for Kite Scratch. His wound was too severe and he dies. Leafstar blames herself for his death, thinking that it's her fault. Back in ThunderClan, Moonpaw is in the medicine den with Jayfeather where he's testing her about herbs. She impressed him for remembering what Tansy is for, and Alderheart comes into the den asking Jayfeather if he's ready to go to the moonpool. Moonpaw says she is, but Jayfeather says she isn't going because she's not fully committed to being a medicine cat yet. Jayfeather leaves, telling her to go over all the herbs again and then put them away. Moonpaw sulks. She wishes that she could get answers about the voice of the moonpool, but comes to find it fun and challenging to do what Jayfeather said. Moonpaw thinks of the voice and thinks it might be gone because she hasn't heard it in a while. After putting away the herbs, she goes to her den. Moonpaw wakes up from a dream, hearing some cat screeching. She leaves her den and asks Goldenpaw and Shinepaw what's going on, but they don't know. Lionblaze and Cherryfall come into camp, wounded. Moonpaw thinks about how Jayfeather and Alderheart aren't back yet and wonders what she should do, but thankfully, they come back to camp at the same time, and Jayfeather tells Moonpaw to come help him. Jayfeather praises Moonpaw for remembering what herb Cherryfall will need, and together they treat her wound. Moonpaw leaves the den and hears Lionblaze and Squirrel Star talking, and Lionblaze says a squirrel practically jumped into his paws when a fox came over the SkyClan border and attacked them. Moonpaw wonders if she wants the kind of pressure a medicine cat has. As Moonpaw goes to sleep, she thinks she hears a cat coming into the medicine den, but Alderheart says no one is there. Moonpaw shrugs it off, but then hears it again and realizes with dread that the voice in her head is back, but this time it was being more sinister. The voice says she is not meant to be a medicine cat, but Moonpaw decides that she, not the voice, will decide her future. In ShadowClan, Birchfeather is saying goodbye to his clanmates before leaving for SkyClan. He doesn't understand why his parents won't come say their farewells, and Tawny Pelt goes into the leader's den. She demands to know why Tigerstar and Dovewing won't say goodbye, and Tigerstar says they won't be happy to lose him. But after Tawny Pelt brings up the fact that they also fell in love with a cat from another clan, they go out to say goodbye, but their words seem dull, not full of love, but Birchfeather takes what he can get. He asks Tawny Pelt to accompany him to the border, and together they leave. Birchfeather asks if he and Tawny Pelt will still find time to see each other, and Tawny Pelt feels touched, saying that yes, of course they'll see each other. And Tawny Pelt says goodbye and leaves Birchfeather at the SkyClan border. Tawny Pelt is waiting for the other cats to check out the two-leg activity again. It's said that the two legs have been around the moonpool again, and all the cats arrive except for Leafstar, but Pale Sky shows up in her place, though she won't say why Leafstar is not present. The patrol sets off, and Pale Sky, Owlnose, and Bayshine admit they think the whole patrol is pointless. Crowfeather snaps at them, saying they don't know what the Great Journey was like, and Owlnose says they won't have to move territories again. It would be too much work, and Tawny Pelt says they have to be ready for anything. They arrive at the moonpool, and Owlnose complains that he should be on a hunting or border patrol rather than doing this. He gets ultimately ignored. There is a lot of two-leg stuff around the moonpool, and chunks of earth have been taken away, even cutting out parts of the spiral path that lead to the pool. Crowfeather admits to Tawny Pelt that he's terrified, and she agrees, but the younger cats seem not to care or understand the severity of the situation. Tawny Pelt snaps at them, but Bayshine just asks if they can get on with it. On the way to the big two-leg den, Crowfeather catches a rabbit, and then the patrol makes their way to the two-leg den. Almost immediately, as soon as they get there, Pale Sky, Owlnose, and Bayshine leave, seeing as there are no changes since the last time they were there. Tawny Pelt asks Crowfeather if he's going to leave too, but he says no, he's going to get a closer look, so he and Tawny Pelt get closer to the den when a monster shows up with a dog in the back. The dog chases them, and they flee into the two-leg den, jumping on top of it. They climb up higher, and Crowfeather says Tawny Pelt was clever for thinking to get up there. For a moment, Tawny Pelt wonders if she's feeling something for Crowfeather. Yeah. Crowfeather spots something in the stream, and Tawny Pelt sees a pile of two-leg trash with a dark liquid spilling out of it and into the stream. They find out this is what has been poisoning the prey. In SkyClan, Leafstar and the rest of the clan set vigil for Kite Scratch, and Leafstar feels immense guilt for not realizing Starling Paw wasn't a badger and still blames herself for his death. Leafstar once again dreams about the gorge, feeling content, but suddenly everything feels wrong, and she asks Echo Song if she made a mistake leaving the gorge, and turns to Ebony Claw, asking her if she's a kitty pet now. Leafstar wakes up and hopes no one saw her asleep at the vigil. As the elders take Kite Scratch away and Hawkwing assigns patrols, Reedclaw confronts Leafstar about falling asleep. Leafstar apologizes, and Hawkwing steps in before a fight can ensue. Harrybrook comforts Leafstar, saying it wasn't her fault, and Leafstar admits she's thinking of stepping down. Harrybrook is appalled, saying it wasn't her fault, and says she shouldn't think like that. Leafstar heads to her den when Reedclaw calls for every cat's attention. She says that it's time for SkyClan to have a new leader. Some cats agree, and Harry Brooke argues on Leafstar's behalf, but she shakes her head no. Reedclaw says she's starting the process to depose Leafstar, and at Sun High, the clan will take a vote. Leafstar remembers she should be joining the patrol to the Two-Legged Den, but Hawkwing tells her she needs to be there for the vote, so he sends Pale Sky instead. She goes to her den to try to sleep, but sleep won't come. Eventually, the time for the vote comes, and Leafstar is voted to stay as leader. In ThunderClan, Jayfeather is quizzing Moonpaw again on herbs, and he praises her for doing well. Alderheart comes in and asks if he's ready for the half-moon meeting, and Moonpaw asks if she can come this time. Jayfeather once again says no, but she convinces Alderheart to let her come, and Jayfeather ultimately agrees. On the way to the moonpool, Moonpaw thinks about if she would name something other than Moon. She wonders what it would be like to not be unique, and the voice retorts, and to not have to listen to me? Moonpaw tries to ignore it and thinks about how the voice only speaks to her at night when she's trying to sleep, telling her she should not be a medicine cat. They arrive at the moonpool, and Alderheart remarks about all the two-leg trash lying around. Jayfeather and pretty much everyone else dismisses it, and Alderheart introduces Moonpaw to the other medicine cats. Frost Dawn is especially nice to Moonpaw. Jayfeather tells them she's not an official medicine cat apprentice yet, just trying it out. A few words are shared about the two-leg stuff around the moonpool, but Fidget Flake is the only one who seems concerned about it. Why? I have no idea. These are medicine cats, and they don't care about the moonpool being tampered with. Anyways, they share some news about some white cough outbreaks, but nothing serious. Moonpaw settles down to touch her nose to the water, but only the voice greets her. She opens her eyes, hoping to see StarClan, but instead, she sees the orange tabby's reflection again. She cries out for it to leave her alone, and swipes at the water, but falls into the moonpool. On the way back to ThunderClan, Moonpaw is apologizing to the other medicine cats the whole way. She tells them she thinks orange tabby she saw could have been a vision, and Alderheart admits that she is probably a medicine cat. When she tries to sleep, the voice claims that Moonpaw can't make her own decisions. In ShadowClan, Tawny Pelt is asking Puddleshine and Shadowsight about the two-leg trash at the moonpool. She becomes increasingly worried, and Tigerstar tells her that she's being irrational and is worrying over nothing. Why? I don't know. It's the moonpool. Oakfur says not to panic about it, but says it should be taken seriously, and Tigerstar says what happened in the old territories was different. Tawny Pelt decides she's going to go to the SkyClan border and see if she can talk to Birchfeather. She asks Tigerstar and Dovewing if they have any messages they'd like to send, but Tiger says no. Remember, Dovewing and I have decided to show him tough love. We won't be interacting with him while he's aiming to become a SkyClan cat. Which... hello? This is Tigerstar and Dovewing, a ShadowClan and ThunderClan cat. Anyways, Tawny Pelt waits as the SkyClan border, and a patrol led by Rootspring appears. She asks him to get Birchfeather, and he agrees. When he arrives, they swap pleasantries, but Tawny Pelt can tell something is wrong. Birchfeather confides that some of SkyClan want to depose Leafstar, and Tawny Pelt is confused. Birchfeather is worried he won't be able to join SkyClan because no trials are being assigned, but Tawny Pelt reassures him. He asks her if she's ever been so in love it's overwhelming, and she thinks of Rowan Claw and wonders if she'll ever feel like that again. In this moment, she thinks of Crowfeather in a romantic way, and ridicules herself for it. Birchfeather wonders if his family misses him, and Tawny Pelt tells him she's sure they do, and Birchfeather leaves. In SkyClan, Leafstar is approached by Tree, and he says he was asked by Hawkwing to set up a meeting with him and Reedclaw, but Reedclaw refused. Tree explains that they should set up some sort of system that would make Reedclaw satisfied, and Tree suggests giving some of Leafstar's duties to Hawkwing because sometimes her age hinders her. Leafstar asks if Hawkwing is trying to make her resign the leadership, but Tree is shocked and says no. Tree says he'll talk to a few cats in private to try to change their mind, and Leafstar is about to say no when a commotion breaks out at the Freshco pile. Harry Brooke and Gravelnose are fighting over who gets a squirrel leg. Harry Brooke says he had it first, and Gravelnose says he was taking it to Renflight because she's expecting his kits. In the end, it's given to Renflight, and Leafstar asks why no cat has eaten the other prey on the pile, which is fish. Everyone claims they don't want to eat fish, but it's divided up anyway. Leafstar approaches Starlingpaw, apologizing for what she said to him after the badger fight. Starlingpaw says it was his fault, but Leafstar disagrees. He thanks her and leaves to his den. She finds Hawkwing and says they should have another go at driving out the badgers, but as Leafstar begins to explain her plan, Hawkwing interrupts and says he should take lead instead. Leafstar reluctantly agrees and wonders if he's trying to take away her leadership. Leafstar wakes up to victory owls and finds out Hawkwing's patrol was successful and the badgers are gone. Rabbitleap wears a striped badger tail around his neck, certified cunty warrior cat. Leafstar listens to Hawkwing talk about the attack, but still feels as though Hawkwing is trying to undermine her. She goes back to her den and her belly rumbles, so she decides to try hunting on her own. She heads to where the badgers were, figuring there should be lots of healthy prey now that they're gone. She chases a rabbit, but falls into a ravine and hits her head, passing out. Leafstar is in a vision of the gorge, and Echo Song appears. She once again asks her if it was the right decision to leave the gorge, and Echo Song says that it was. She tells Leafstar to stop doubting herself because it will only make it easier for them. Leafstar asks easier for who, but Echo Song disappears. Leafstar wakes up and finds Harrybrook and Rootspring carrying her back to camp. Fidget Flake tells her she's been missing for 3 days and her clanmates have been looking for her. When they get to camp, they get her to the medicine den and she sees Hawkwing come out of the leader's den. Her clanmates are relieved to see her, but there also is some hostility. Leafstar takes some poppy seeds and falls asleep. In ThunderClan, Goldenpaw and Shinepaw ask Moonpaw what the moonpool was like, but she tells them she can't say. They're called by their mentors and Moonpaw goes to the medicine den. Moonpaw does her duties there and thinks about the voice. She fears her work as a medicine cat is all wrong, that the voice in her head is not a vision, and that she's not a medicine cat. The voice chimes in that the voice is right. Jayfeather comes in and says he isn't sure what to make of Moonpaw. He says, "You're terribly efficient, but I sense deep down that your heart isn't in this." Moonpaw says she became a medicine cat to see if some of her thoughts might be visions, and Jayfeather asks if any cat has told her about Ashfur. She says no, and he explains what happened with Ashfur and asks Moonpaw if that's the kind of thing she's experiencing. Moonpaw panics, but says no. That night, Moonpaw decides to go to the moonpool and speak to the voice. She sees its reflection in the moonpool again, and the voice tells her that they are tied together, but Moonpaw still doesn't know if it's real. The voice says it'll prove it by telling her something that will happen in the future. It tells Moonpaw that the next day, the sun will disappear, but it will be found shining in a tree. Moonpaw is confused, but the voice and reflection go away, and Moonpaw goes back to camp. The next day, nothing happens, and Moonpaw thinks about how she can go back to being a warrior apprentice because she assumes the voice isn't real and just something that she's imagining. She goes to sleep in the medicine den, but is woken by voices in the camp. Murderbloom exclaims that her kits are missing. Ivypool looks for them in camp, but to no avail, and Squirrelstar takes out a patrol to look for them, and Moonpaw sneaks out after them. They find Oakkit and Hazelkit, and Hazelkit says they were following Sunkit, who got up in the middle of the night and wandered out of the nursery. Cinderheart takes them back to camp, and Moonpaw comes to realize that Sunkit is the sun that would disappear, and calls out to Squirrelstar that she knows where he is, but she doesn't hear her, so Moonpaw goes by herself. Moonpaw finds him, and he seems frightened of her, but won't say why. She brings him back to camp, and everyone is overjoyed at his safe return. Squirrelstar asks Moonpaw how she knew where Sunkit was, and Moonpaw comes up with some elaborate story. Squirrelstar seems doubtful, but Jayfeather calls Moonpaw into the nursery. He asks Sunkit to tell him again what happened, and he says he thought he saw Moonpaw outside the nursery and told him to wait in the tree. Alderheart says this is impossible because Moonpaw was in the medicine den all night, and Moonpaw goes back to her nest and wonders what else the voice is capable of. In SkyClan, in ShadowClan, Tawnypelt finds herself in a dream, and Rowanclaw finds her. They both talk, and Tawnypelt explains that she knows the Two-Legs are doing something, but her clan won't listen to her. Rowanclaw tells her not to give up, and he says that he wants her to be happy with another cat again. And Tawnypelt thinks of Crowfeather. The next day, Tanya Pelt is on a hunting patrol when a squirrel barrels into her. She catches it, and Ridgeglow appears claiming it's SkyClan prey, and she's been tracking it over the whole territory. Tanya Pelt doesn't back down, stating that it's ShadowClan prey, and Ridgeglow attacks her. Birchfeather appears and begs him to stop, and Ridgeglow says they need the prey, and Birchfeather says it's for his trial. Tiny Pelt apologizes and says she can't give it to him, and he understands and turns to leave. Tiny Pelt spots a rabbit and chases it into SkyClan territory for Birchfeather to catch, but Yarrowleaf sees Tiny Pelt do this. Back in camp, Yarrowleaf immediately goes to Tigerstar's den, and he summons Tiny Pelt. He gets angry at her for helping Birchfeather with his task, saying he hopes he'll come home, and he punishes Tiny Pelt by giving her night guard duties for the next quarter moon. In SkyClan, Leafstar finds herself plagued with visions of her time in the Gorge once again, good and bad ones. She has a vision about a dark gap between two rocks before being woken by Hawkwing saying she's needed outside. Leafstar remarks how clean the camp looks and wonders how Hawkwing has managed it. Reedclaw tells Leafstar she's giving the clan another chance to depose her. Leafstar knew this was coming and just hopes her clan votes in her favor again. After some discussions between SkyClan, the vote is held. Everyone but Hawkwing, Rootspring, Tree, Harrybrook, and MacGyver vote to depose Leafstar. Leafstar is bitter about this, but there isn't anything much she can do, so she goes to her den to wait until that night for the gathering, where the other clan leaders will decide if Leafstar will be deposed. At the gathering, Leafstar speaks last. But before she can speak, Reedclaw calls out, claiming that SkyClan has voted to depose Leafstar. The other leaders are baffled, and Tigerstar asks why. Reedclaw gives examples of Leafstar's poor leadership, and at first Tigerstar argues in Leafstar's favor, but Reedclaw gives a good point that StarClan gave warriors the power to depose leaders for a reason. Leafstar realizes that the other leaders will likely not agree to depose her, but she comes to understand that maybe she really isn't fit to be leader anyway. She tells the other leaders that they don't have to vote, that she will willingly step down. The clans appreciate Leafstar's seasons as leader, and Hawkwing declares he will do a lot of work to fill her pause, and Icestar calls the gathering an end. In ThunderClan, Moonpaw is still uneasy about what happened with Sunkit. She wonders if she actually was somehow involved, or if it was the Orange Cat. Alderheart says she needs some time to get back to normal, as her behavior has not gone unnoticed, but says he'll give her some space. But Jayfeather has none of that, and sends her back to work right away. Moonpaw doesn't know if she should continue training as a medicine cat, or go back to being a warrior apprentice. Jayfeather can tell something's bothering her, and asks her what's going on. Moonpaw tells him her heart isn't in becoming a medicine cat anymore, and he's not surprised. He tells her to go find Sunbeam, and she does. She finds her in the warrior's den with Nightheart and asks to talk to her alone, where she asks to be her apprentice again. Sunbeam agrees, but tells her if she doesn't listen, she'll make Squirrelstar assign a new mentor for her. Moonpaw goes to the medicine den to tell Jayfeather the news, but she can't shake off the thought of the voice and wonders if it really is evil like Ashfur. In ShadowClan, Tiny Pelt is on night guard duty and accidentally falls asleep and has a dream about leaving the forest, getting to the lake, and Two Legs tearing up the lake territory. She hears the cries of a kit and wakes up, startled. She decides she should check out the den the Two Legs are building. Flaxfoot relieves her of her night guard duty, and she leaves right away. She runs into Birchfeather, who's doing the dawn patrol by himself as one of his trials. Tiny Pelt tells him what she's up to, and he decides to come with her. When they get to the Two-Leg Den, Tiny Pelt insists that they search the area thoroughly. Tiny Pelt jumps on top of some Two-Leg stuff when it starts to fall beneath her paws. She can't get herself to safety, and she falls into a deep hole. Tiny Pelt realizes at the last moment that the cat she heard crying for help in her dream was her. In ThunderClan, Moonpaw joins a patrol with Sunbeam, Goldenpaw, Shinepaw, Finleap, and Flipclaw. At first, the two apprentices are confused on why she's there, but Sunbeam explains that she's training to be a warrior again, and they seem pleased. They both reassure Moonpaw that they still have trouble with some parts of their training, and Moonpaw feels better about being so far behind. Moonpaw practices her hunting crouch with Sunbeam when she spots a rabbit. Sunbeam tells her to catch it, and Moonpaw does. Sunbeam is very impressed. They meet up with the rest of the patrol, and they are all impressed by Moonpaw as well. Moonpaw thinks she hears something in the woods and goes to follow it, thinking that it's prey. But then she hears the voice laughing, and it seems able to touch her. Moonpaw tries to ignore it and goes back to join her mentor. The voice keeps trying to distract Moonpaw, but she ignores it. She hopes Goldenpaw and Shinepaw catch a squirrel, and the patrol collects the rest of the prey and returns home. The voice declares that Moonpaw can't ignore it forever. In ShadowClan, Tawnypelt wakes up in StarClan and believes that she's died. She's reunited with Rowanclaw, Flametail, and Dawnpelt. Blue Star appears and tells Tawnypelt it's not her time to die and gives her a warning. You must not lose your way on the journey, even after the stars have faded. Tawnypelt is confused and demands answers, but she can feel herself waking up back in the living world. Before she is gone, Blue Star says something else. Beware the two-faced cat with one paw in each world. Tawnypelt wakes up in SkyClan in their medicine den. Frecklewish explains that Birchfeather ran for help and Hawkwing and Violetshine brought her back to SkyClan's camp. Tawnypelt says she has something she has to tell the clans, but before she can say anything, she passes out. In the final chapter, we're back with Moonpaw instead of Leafstar, for reasons. Moonpaw is cleaning out the warrior's den when Goldenpaw and Shinepaw offer to help, but Moonpaw refuses. She feels something hit her shoulder, but when she looks, there's nothing there and assumes something fell from the ceiling. When she turns back to her task, she finds that all the bedding she collected had vanished. She questions herself when Sunbeam walks into the den, praising Moonpaw for her good work. Moonpaw asks to go to sleep early, and Sunbeam lets her, saying she's glad Moonpaw's her apprentice again. Moonpaw heads to the apprentice's den, and it's empty, so she goes to sleep by herself. But weirdly, Moonpaw feels something cold sitting beside her, and the voice whispers in her ear, saying, "You can't run from me. We are one." Moonpaw is startled and decides to tell her parents about the voice. She confesses that she's been hearing a voice but keeps half the truth hidden and says she only hears it in her dreams, and she even saw the cat that the voice comes from. Bayshine asks if it was an orange tabby, and Moonpaw wonders how he could possibly know that. Thriftear tells her it must be her littermate, and Moonpaw is confused, and Thriftear explains that Moonpaw was born with a sister, but she died shortly after she was born. Thriftear says that it's a good thing that her sister is talking to Moonpaw from StarClan through her dreams. Moonpaw can't bring herself to tell her parents that the spirit of her sister is not benevolent, and that she never made it to StarClan because there were no stars in her fur. She tells them she needs to think and leaves camp to talk to her sister. She goes to the lake and sees her sister's reflection, and Moonpaw tells her she has to go to StarClan, that she's an apprentice and has responsibilities. But her sister doesn't agree and says, "You don't understand yet. I am always with you. We are tied together. And if you won't let me be with you in your world, you will be with me in mine." And that is the end of the Elder's Quest. So, yeah. So, there's some things to talk about. First I'll go over some of my thoughts. So, firstly, in the prologue, two of the the StarClan cats were Leafpool and Clear Sky. Which, whoa. Why are they interacting? Get away from her. Also, when Tawnypelt walks into the Elder's Den, Ogfur is telling the story of the Great Journey, which makes me think it's foreshadowing for how the rest of this arc will go, moving territories again. Also, with Moonpaw, please stop making cats medicine cats when they clearly want to be a warrior. It's such an overused trope, and if this arc ends with Moonpaw being medicine cat, I will genuinely crash out. When Tawnypelt wakes up, in one of her chapters, she hears the two-leg monsters roaring, and again thinks of how the old territory was destroyed. They keep hinting at moving territories, and oh my god, I don't want them to do that again. Please, stay at the lake. It makes no sense to move. The clans have so much history with the lake that they can't just go somewhere else again. Like, the lake is where the clans started. That was the origin, but whatever. Also, when Tawny Pelt is talking to Birchfeather about Ridge Glow, Birchfeather says that she has such a cute little white nose, and it's so cute. I love them. At one point, it's said that Hawkwing nuzzles Leafstar's shoulder affectionately and curls up beside her. And that's so cute. I love cats being cats in the Warriors series. So on page 78, Moonpaw is talking to Sunbeam, and I just want to read something that Sunbeam says. So it says, "A true clan cat can get used to anything," Sunbeam agreed, amusement sparkling in her eyes. "Two legs, dogs, ticks, and Jayfeather." Also, we saw Owl Nose. Owl Nose mentioned, guys. Owl Nose. Also, can we talk about how weirdly two-legged things are described sometimes? Like, on page 82, when they first find the big two-legged den, it says this. "The first thing Tawny Pelt noticed was some large structure rising from the ground in the middle of the walled-off area. It was surrounded by a network of straight, shiny branches with wooden ledges here and there, connected by what looked like thin trees with narrow branches at regular intervals from top to bottom. The walls of what she assumed would be a two-legged den stood inside the network, but so far it was only a couple of tailings high." What is this describing? I don't know what this is supposed to be. I really, really don't. I just don't. Also, okay, I don't understand why SkyClan was so uncertain about getting rid of the badger. Like, SkyClan is a big clan, and I'm sure some of them would certainly be able to drive it out no problem. There's so many of them. And, like, since when have warrior cats ever not been up to fight? Leafstar's plan was actually good attacking it in the day, and they were like, "No, I don't want to." Like, huh? Also, in the Allegiance, Sparrowpelt and Cherrytail, but mostly Sparrowpelt, is an elder. But Sparrowpelt is chosen to go on the patrol to drive out the badger, and he's mentioned, like, attacking the badger multiple times. Also, okay, I don't know if this means anything, but there's a few times where it's said that Moonpaw wakes up and says that she feels like no time at all has passed since she fell asleep. And I wonder if that means anything, like, with the voice, like, is her sister, like, draining her energy? I don't know. It's mentioned sometimes. On page 108, there's a cute interaction with Moonpaw and Jayfeather. I just want to read it out. Jayfeather turned around from where he was licking Cherryfall's shoulder. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Chewing up horsetail," Moonpaw mumbled around her mouthful of stems, "for Cherryfall's wound." Jayfeather nodded. "Good job," he grunted. At first, Jayfeather's words made no sense to Moonpaw. It took a couple of heartbeats for her to work out what he had actually said. When she finally understood, she wanted to jump up and down, but she controlled herself. "Wow, Jayfeather praised me." It's so cute and so funny. Oh my gosh. Also, when Birchfeather is leaving ShadowClan, we see him, like, saying goodbye to Poundstep, Lightleap, and Shadowsight, and it's really nice to see siblings from different litters interact and, like, actually acknowledging the fact that they are siblings, because we don't get a lot of that, and it's also really nice to see grandparent and grandchild interaction with Birchfeather and Tawny Pelt, because as much as familial bonds go in warrior cats, it's usually just like children and parents, and even that ends after they become warriors. So it was really nice. Also, I don't understand why Pale Sky, Owlnose, and Bayshine just, like, don't understand why the moonpool being tampered with is a big deal. Like, when has the moonpool ever not been a big deal? Like, hello? It's also said that Fallowfern, SkyClan's elder, says that she has an uncanny ability to understand what was happening in her clan, even without hearing. I think that's so funny. And then Froston. Guys, we saw Froston, and she's so nice. The way that she's described from Moonpaw's POV is so nice. And Froston was just so nice to Moonpaw. Like, oh, she was so friendly. So, also, we got confirmed, I guess, that Gravelnose and Renflight are mates, which, okay. I thought Renflight was into Rootspring, though, in Ivypool's heart. That was not a big deal, but it was there. And Rabbit Leap wearing the badger tail around his neck, so funny. He's so cunty. Also, okay, Myrtle Bloom and Shelfer. Myrtle Bloom and Shelfer are mates. Hello, what? Question mark? What happened to Fernstripe? Like, literally in the last book, there was a whole passage how Fernstripe was like, I love the smell of Shelfer. He smells like leaves. Hello? Shelfer left Fernstripe to hook up with his cousin? Hello? Like, did the writers just forget? Like, Fernstripe is still in ThunderClan in the Allegiance. Like, is she just there now? Just watching her ex-mate hook up with his cousin? Okay, whatever. Also, okay, how does Leafstar being injured automatically mean that Hawkwing taking charge made things better? Like, SkyClan could still have fixed up the camp and caught more prey while she was well. Like, nothing was stopping them from doing that. Just because Hawkwing was sleeping in the leader's den, SkyClan is suddenly so much better? I don't understand. Hawkwing could have done that same thing when Leafstar was still there. Whatever. Also, I noticed the Tulip destruction in the forest territories started in SkyClan, and now it's starting in SkyClan again in the lake territories, which I find kind of funny. At the gathering, when Leafstar announces stepping down, it says that Squirrelstar in particular seemed upset, distressed in her brilliant green gaze as she looked at Leafstar, which is so cute. Oh my god, Squirrelstar and Leafstar should definitely get together. That's so gay. There's nothing straight about that. When Tawny Pelt is having that like dream of Blue Star, Blue Star says, "You must not lose your way on the journey." These bitches are definitely moving territories again. There's no way that's not where the writers are going with this. So, with Moonpaw, I'm glad that they went with the route of the voice being her sister who died shortly after birth. I'm really interested to see where this goes. I find it cool that the voice is like becoming evil. Like, something's definitely going on, and I wonder where the spirit of her sister like resides, because it's not StarClan, and I don't think it's the ghost residence, because at one point her sister says in her world she can see slips in time, which I don't think that's ever been described before, but I find that really cool. Maybe that's like maybe, oh my god, in Ivypool's heart they're like spirits are a part of like the earth or whatever, something like that. What if that's what her sister is doing? I don't know. And why is this book called The Elder's Quest? There was no quest that involved elders. They definitely could have picked a better title. Like, if they're referring to the patrol of Tawny Pelt, Leafstar, and Crowfeather that went to the Tulip Den twice? Why? That was not a quest. They were not elders. So, here's my, like, final thoughts on the whole book, like, as a whole. While Moonpaw has the chance to become a really interesting character, her whole story in this book in particular is not as compelling as Tawny Pelt's or Leafstar's. For me, I enjoyed Leafstar's chapters the most. I felt like almost all of Moonpaw's time was spent in the medicine den with Jayfeather, and while there were some fun and cute character moments there, it wasn't important to the overall plot. I feel like there was a lot of wasted potential. Leafstar's leadership issues were interesting to read about, and I'm honestly surprised they actually went with the route of deposing her. Like, I wonder if Hawkwing will actually be granted his 9 lives and he'll be Hawkstar, or if the two-leg interference with the moonpool will prevent that from happening. And Leafstar will stay as leader until that whole issue is solved. But with Tawny Pelt, I really just don't understand why nobody will listen to her about her concerns of the two legs. Like, she was literally there on the great journey from the forest to the lake. She of all people would know how dire the situation could get. And with all the references to the great journey and the new prophecy, I do believe this the direction they're going with this, which honestly, I'm not too excited about. But I guess we'll just have to see where they decide to take the story. I don't know, but overall, I really enjoyed this book. I think it was a fantastic start to a new arc, and this arc definitely has the potential to be really good as long as they don't mess it up. And I'm super excited to see what happens next. So, let's talk about Tawny Pelt and Crowfeather. I I don't understand this. I don't I don't understand this. Why? Why Tawny Pelt and Crowfeather? Like what? On the in the new prophecy, when they were going to the Sunshine Place, like, Tawny Pelt thought he was so annoying. Oh my god. I believe the romance starts on page 81. Tawny Pelt thinks that Crowfeather's going to make a great leader one day, she thought, admiring the Winkland deputy's authority. I believe this is where it begins. On this patrol to the Two-Leg Den started everything. I'm just gonna read a few passages from the book that is just, I don't know, man. Okay, page 128. It says, "That was close," Crowfeather mewed, and they allowed themselves a meow of laughter. "Just for a moment I thought we were in real trouble," Tawny Pelt admitted. "You could have fooled me," Crowfeather told her, admiration in his voice. "That was brave, the way you coped with that StarClan cursed dog. And you were really clever to think of climbing up here. Even though I can't wait to get down," he added, with a wry twist of his mouth. Tawny Pelt had to glance away from him, her face growing hot in response to his praise. "Am I feeling something for Crowfeather all of a sudden? Oh, no, no," she scolded herself. "That's silly." She wasn't some love-lorn youngster like Birchfeather. She was a senior warrior and far too old to think about switching clans. And Crowfeather was Crowfeather. They had known each other forever, since the journey to the Sundrun Water, so long ago. There had never been anything between them. No. No! On page 154, it says, "It felt as though there were a bird fluttering in Tawny Pelt's belly when she thought of Crowfeather. I wonder what he's doing now." But as soon as the thought crossed her mind, Tawny Pelt began scolding herself. "Stop this at once!" On page 160, we have the infamous screenshot that circulated Twitter. Okay. It says, "Will I ever feel like that again?" she asked herself, then immediately dismissed the thought. Who with? There was no other cat in ShadowClan who could be her mate, no cat her age, no cat who attracted her. Suddenly, unbidden, the image of Crowfeather entered her mind, his lithe, muscular body, his thick dark gray fur, the brilliant intensity of his blue eyes. She squeezed her eyes shut, as if that could banish the vision, and gave her pelt a shake. What's wrong with me? Hasn't Crowfeather already had his share of doomed romances with cats from other clans? On page 197, it says, Tawny Pelt drew a long breath, enjoying for a moment the memory of Rowan-Claw, his voice and his scent and the feel of his fur. His encouragement strengthened her to keep on insisting that there was danger for the clans and what the Two Legs were doing. But his last words sent a shiver running right through her. I want you to be happy. And with the thought, another cat came into Tawny Pelt's mind, a wiry Winkland Tom with dark gray fur and intense blue eyes. Oh, Crowfeather. Guys, please, Tawny Pelt, you can do so much better than this deadbeat. Please, Tawny Pelt, no! I genuinely can't tell if the writers are, going to actually do this. Make them a couple. No, don't do it, please. But if you're gonna do it, Crowfeather also needs to get someone from SkyClans that he pulled a bad bitch from every clan. So anyways, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed the review of Changing Skies, The Elder's Quest. I don't know if I'm gonna do this with the other books in this arc, because this was a lot of work. I was typing away all night last night making notes for this. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna do it again, but I mean, if people like it, people actually watch this, maybe. Anyways, that's all. Goodbye.